Hello fight fans, thanks for joining us at MMA Insider. Before we get rolling with today's news, show some love by hitting that like button and subscribing. Now let's uncover the latest happenings in MMA. Starting off, Alex Pereira defends Conor McGregor against criticism of UFC 303 withdrawal. Moving on, Robert Whittaker responds to Khamzat Chimaev's "See you soon" message. Next, Israel Adesanya predicts Alex Pereira versus Jiri Prochazka 2. Moving on, UFC 306 will be rebranded to Riyadh Season Noche UFC and take place on September 14th at the Sphere. Lastly, Jiri Prochazka challenges Alex Pereira to fight without spiritual forces at UFC 303. Alex Pereira has defended Conor McGregor against those criticizing him for withdrawing from UFC 303. As we now know, Conor McGregor will not be competing in the main event of UFC 303. That's due to a broken toe, more specifically his pinky toe. Because of that, his big showdown with Michael Chandler will have to wait. Instead, Alex Pereira is stepping up to defend his UFC light heavyweight championship against Jiri Prochazka on short notice. Pereira, of course, is an absolute beast, and he's proven that time and time again. He is willing to get in there against just about anyone, and that's quite the legacy to have. In a recent interview, Pereira spoke candidly about McGregor's situation. Here is what he said: "I cannot judge whether he fights or not, because honestly, he's in a point in his life where he secured himself on many different financial aspects. Maybe he was fighting in a much different scenario than I'm fighting. Maybe if I was fighting in the situation where he is in life right now, I don't know if I would do it too. It is hard to fight with a broken pinky toe. It is a risky decision, very risky decision to fight with a broken toe. I broke one before the fight, it was bad. In the fight, I broke the other one. Maybe if it was the other one, I wouldn't have been able to fight, so I cannot weigh that. But I made the right choice." Robert Whittaker is responding to Khamzat Chimaev's "See you soon" message. It was to be Robert Whittaker versus the undefeated Khamzat Chimaev in a bout last weekend at UFC Saudi Arabia. However, Khamzat unfortunately had to withdraw due to illness. Ikram Aliskerov stepped in to fill Chimaev's place, and Whittaker defeated him by KO in the first round last Saturday night. Following Whittaker's victory, Chimaev took to social media and called him out, saying he'll see him soon. Robert Whittaker has since seemingly laughed off Khamzat Chimaev's comment during an interview, responding, "Well, I will say, see you soon? It's like, where? You can't get into any country. Where are you gonna see me, bro? When I'm in the area, right? Yeah." So that's tricky to start with. At present, Chimaev is not allowed to enter the USA due to his friendship with Chechen leader Ramzan Kadyrov, who is being sanctioned by the US for crimes against humanity. Talking to the media, here is what he said: "Mate, I'm a middleweight. I don't pick my fights. If that's a fight that UFC wants and are interested in making, and they want me to headline another card out that way, that's what I do. That's why I do this. Our paths are sure to cross. We're both top 10 middleweights. I don't look to pick fights. I just wait until they give me a name, and then I set my sights." And that's kinda how the hunt begins. Whittaker has now won both his last two fights in the octagon. Former UFC middleweight champion Israel Adesanya is expecting fireworks when Alex Pereira and Jiri Prochazka run it back this Saturday. The UFC light heavyweight title is on the line once again when Pereira and Prochazka clash in a highly anticipated rematch to cap off UFC 303. Pereira defeated Prochazka for the then vacant title at UFC 294 in November. Prochazka got back into the title conversation with an impressive come-from-behind win at UFC 300. Adesanya is familiar with Pereira's style after 4 total fights during their combat sports careers. Despite his familiarity, he feels Prochazka will exact his revenge at UFC 303. During a recent segment on his YouTube channel, Adesanya gave his analysis on the Pereira versus Prochazka rematch. Here is what he said: "I'm gonna go Jiri because we're the chosen few, but also I think he might have learned from his mistake because people don't understand, and it also makes things interesting. If Jiri wins, then it's a trifecta, a trilogy. The approach from both fighters will be different because they both know what could happen. Alex knows he can get taken down and controlled, and Jiri knows he can get knocked out. But also Alex knows he can get touched and hurt by Jiri. More calculated, slower, because also they are taking this on short notice." Pereira is unbeaten since making the full-time move to the UFC light heavyweight division in 2023. He's defeated the likes of Jamal Hill and Jan Blachowicz during his eventful 205-pound stint. Procházka is looking to recapture the magic that earned him the UFC light heavyweight title by defeating Glover, Pereira's mentor, at UFC 275. He vacated the belt just months later after suffering a significant shoulder injury. Adesanya will be watching all of the action at UFC 303 as he prepares for his UFC return in August. Time will tell if Pereira will retain the belt or if a new champion will be crowned. UFC 306 has now been rebranded to Riyadh Season Noche UFC, as announced by the Ultimate Fighting Championship. As we know, the UFC is planning an absolutely huge event for 306. It's set to go down at the Sphere in Las Vegas and will serve as the first major sports event to take place at the venue. As you can imagine, the promotion plans to pull out all the stops to impress the masses in Sin City. In addition to that, we also know that the company has a growing relationship with Saudi Arabia. It really kickstarted last weekend when they put on their first big event last weekend, which seemed to be a success. Talking to the media, hear what Dana White said. This will be one of the biggest sporting events of all time. What we're going to pull off at Sphere will never be done again. This will be a once-in-a-lifetime experience for sports fans. At the same time, this is going to be an incredible tribute to the Mexican people for their extraordinary contributions to combat sports. Their participation shows just how massive the interest is from all over the world. Riyadh Season Noche UFC will be unforgettable. Jiri Prochazka wants a fair fight with light heavyweight champion Alex Pereira at UFC 303. This Saturday on pay-per-view, the two light heavyweights will again face off. Last November, in the main event of UFC 295, Jiri Prochazka and Alex Pereira met for the first time. While both men had success in the contest, it was Pereira who emerged with a second-round stoppage win. Just a few months removed from their first meeting, they will meet again in the main event of UFC 303. Alex Pereira versus Jiri Prochazka 2 was famously made on just 2 weeks' notice after the cancellation of Conor McGregor versus Michael Chandler. For his rematch with Alex Pereira, Jiri Prochazka has a lot on his mind. Obviously, the former UFC light heavyweight champion wants to avenge his defeat to the Brazilian. Speaking at UFC 303 Media Day earlier today, Procházka accused Pereira of doing rituals to help him fight. Here is what he said. Everyone knows that he's doing these rituals. Before the fight, everyone can feel that. What's around him and what's going on. So I think Alex can't fight without that. That's something that he's using normally in fighting. Let's see. This is my challenge to him. Let's fight in a clear way to not have other things, some whatever, in the cage. Let the higher power be in the cage to see which is the best, in the pure performance, that's all. Yeah, I will ask him. Thank you so much for tuning into today's video. Your dedication and support fuel our passion to bring you the latest and greatest in the MMA world. If you enjoyed today's news, please give us a thumbs up and share it with fellow MMA fans. Remember to subscribe to stay in the loop with daily MMA updates. We've got a lot of exciting news, interviews, and analysis coming your way every single day. Your engagement helps us grow and serve the MMA community even better. Once again, thank you for being an integral part of our daily MMA journey.